Hello, my name is Kai Zhou, and I'll be presenting my project for the biological species concept. The intro to biological species concept. Classifying living creatures is a fluid and changing practice. Several concepts have been put forward to help make this practice less subjective and more objective. In removing human input on what constitutes a species, scientists are striving for answers from nature itself. One of the most widely accepted concepts used in classifying species is the biological species concept. The concept details. Separating species relates to the most specific major classification rank. As stated in the textbook, the biological species concept asserts that two organisms are from the same species if they can produce viable offspring. Viable offspring must both be living and able to reproduce. It is not enough for offspring to simply survive. However, some debate persists regarding the exact meaning of viable offspring. The distinguishing extinct species. Extinct species is called paleospecies. This is a more difficult process because in order to distinguish species, fossil records are the main evidence scientists use to distinguish whether or not an animals could be related. Physical traits and behaviors are used to distinguish relationships between the paleoanimals. These physical traits are diet, any types of locomotion. Geographical location and time period is used to determine if similar fossils are related. The example of concept, horses and donkeys were once thought to belong to the same species. However, the biological species concept proves that they are from different species. Even though horses and donkeys can produce living offspring, called mules, they are separate species. Because mules cannot reproduce, making them inviable offspring. Problem stems from an imbalance in the number of chromosomes horses and donkeys pass on, leading to infertility. There's another example of concept. Even species which look nearly identical can be separated due to the biological species concept. Western meadowlarks, which is above, and eastern meadowlarks, which is below, are separate species. The two species of meadowlarks do not interbreed and are incapable of viable offspring. One of the key distinguishing factors separating them as species is their song. This example highlights the variation when it comes to the biological species concept. The biological traits, homologies and analogies are the traits compared to distinguish between species. Analogies are the result of homoplasy. Homoplasy are traits that have been adapted in unrelated species due to evolutionary adaptation. An example of this would be similar digestive tracts of colobus monkeys and cows, whose diets of plants is very similar. Homologies are traits that are similar due to a common ancestor, not because of evolutionary adaptation. Homologies are more useful than analogies in determine if an animals are related or not. The types of homology traits are ancestral traits and derived traits. And there are two types of derived traits which are shared and unique. Shared derived traits, or when two species have similar traits due to an ancestor, and unique traits happen when only one species has a trait that has been derived from an ancestor. Why it matters? Because the study of naming animals, or taxonomy, allows animals and species to be properly named. The classification of species determines which animals are similar and which are not. This is important in the study of animals, past and present. Students should learn about the biological concept of species so that they can learn more about animals themselves and the relationship between the two. In the field of biology, species classification makes it much easier and more accurate to study different animals. The conclusion: the biological species concept may not be absolute in how it is understood to apply, but it is still very helpful. The biological species concept helps give scientists a more objective method of separating species, placing the emphasis on survivability and the ability to reproduce sets a very specific bar for species to cross. Creatures which may not resemble one another may be members of the same species, while near identical creatures may be from different species. And that's all for my presentation. Thank you.